Welcome to the Asbestos Knowledge Empire.
What does asbestos management mean to you?
I used to really struggle with the asbestos management at my site, but now it's a breeze.
It used to be really expensive. I was paying loads, but now I've got my asbestos power team in place. It's so much easier.
Asbestos can be a pain in the arse if not handled right.
We had to stop the job because asbestos was discovered. Now we don't have that problem.
Asbestos management is easier than you think. Asbestos management. Be proactive, not reactive. Think about asbestos first, not last.
And now your hosts, best-selling authors and asbestos experts, Ian Stone and Neil Munro.
Hi, welcome to the Asbestos Knowledge Empire. My name's Neil Munro.
I'm Ian Stone, and today we're going to be talking about Asbestos Awareness Training.
Yes, so, under the Control of Asbestos Regulations 2012, which are the current set of asbestos regulations here in the UK, one of the regulations, Regulation 10, refers to information, instruction and training, and it places certain responsibilities on employers to their employees.
Yeah, so under that, the employers have the duty to ensure that any information, instruction and training that's given to their employees is adequate to allow them to safeguard themselves and other employees, and so that they can carry their work out safely and effectively.
Yeah, it's really about giving them the right training, information to keep them safe while they're doing their normal everyday work. So under this regulation, it does detail 3 types of training. We're only going to cover the one today. The 3 are asbestos awareness training, non-licensable work with asbestos, and this includes their notifiable non-licence. And then there's training for licensable work with asbestos. Now, all 3 are relevant to the roles that they're undertaking, and they don't qualify you to do every other task within that training matrix. So, for instance, if you've had asbestos awareness training, it doesn't qualify you to work with asbestos. And equally, if you've had non-licensed training, it doesn't qualify you to work with licence. Hope that makes sense. So, training should include...
So it should include appropriate level of detail. It should be suitable for their actual work. The training should use written materials and oral presentations, and also practical demonstrations wherever necessary.
Yeah, there's some real important points in there from my personal experiences. One is oral presentation. So can somebody explain the actual training to the individual to make sense? So they're not just reading text, they're not clicking on an online video. It's an actual oral presentation with a live teacher who's experienced to deliver that training.
Yeah, that's really key for me as well. The whole point of sitting down and learning something is so that you learn, but as part of any learning experience, I find that it's best to be able to relate it to your everyday use and ask questions about that. Whereas if you're sitting down just in front of a computer going through training, you're not going to have the opportunity to ask the teacher questions about it, how it relates to you, so that you can fully appreciate and fully understand it in your own way.
Yeah, so another point in there, it's suitable for their work. Now, asbestos awareness training, although it does cover all fields and it's kind of a generic course, however, there are lots of different individual roles within industry, within trades that are specific within areas, and having a tailored asbestos awareness training course delivered in line with what you do is really powerful to those individuals. To give you an example of that, gas fitters is a completely different trade to, say, plasterers, and they may encounter completely different asbestos containing materials. So therefore, if you've got a tailored awareness training course for those individuals, that's really, really powerful, and the individual get a more powerful and detailed course delivered to them.
Yeah, so generally, the asbestos awareness training should be given to employees who can foreseeably be disturbing the fabric of the building as part of their works, which might expose them to asbestos, but also key, and this is often forgotten, people think that it's just the boots on the ground workers that need awareness training. It's not. It's also anyone that supervises, influences, manages those works. So the people sitting back at the office, project managing all of these works, they need the awareness training because they need to understand themselves the locations, the risks that might happen for their guys and their people working on site.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, asbestos awareness training is all about keeping people safe while they do their job, in a nutshell. So in particular, it should be given to workers in the refurbishment, building and maintenance trade. So, these people who are going in and working on the building, disturbing the fabric of the building, should definitely have awareness training, or anyone who could encounter during their everyday work. They might not actually be working on the building, but they may be going into buildings, opening up cupboards, lofts, ceilings, etc., for inspection purposes.
So we've got a real big list here. We're going to run through it just to kind of really give you the overview and the flavour of who should have awareness training. So first and foremost, we've got demo workers.
Yeah, now demolition, obviously, they're definitely going to come into contact with asbestos, aren't they? Ripping apart buildings. They're high on the list of chances of coming across some asbestos. And then the next one is construction workers.
Yep, equally the same kind of thing. Maintenance staff, again.
Yeah, electricians, plumbers who are sort of running pipes, cables, etc. through buildings.
Gas fitters that Neil's already mentioned.
Yeah, painters and decorators. Now, usually these are not really sort of intrusive, but they're definitely doing sanding works where, you could be sanding an asbestos material. So they could definitely come into contact with that.
Joiners, carpenters.
Yeah, shop fitters, plasterers.
Roofers.
Heating and ventilation engineers.
Telecommunication engineers, that's an interesting one. Again, they could be routing cables, routing stuff for new telecom systems or whatever.
Yeah, they're running cables through seam voids. That's a high risk sort of job if there is asbestos there. Computer and data installers. Again, this is quite a modern sort of industry where lots of businesses and buildings are having dated data and computer systems, and they're working in old buildings, and this industry is quite at risk now, I would say. You've got fire and burglar alarm installers.
Yeah, and then lastly on the list, so all of those that we've just mentioned, I think most people in one way, shape or form would expect. But the last ones on the list are architects, building surveyors and other such professionals. So what I mean by that is anyone that's in and around the buildings. We do CPD training courses for architects and building surveyors, and when they're accessing areas such as lofts, looking in and around businesses and premises, they can come into contact with asbestos. So again, that's why they need to understand and have the awareness training.
So when would you not need to have asbestos awareness training? You wouldn't have to have asbestos awareness training if the employee or the individual was only working within a building which didn't contain asbestos. So to give you an example, it would be a brand new building. So a building built anything after 2000, which you could confirm there was no asbestos in there. Or if you've got information on the building and you could confirm that there was no asbestos in it, this is usually either by undertaking an assessment to identify that there is no asbestos there, or if you've got construction information on the building or bill of quantity, so you can determine that there is no asbestos hidden in that building.
So what should the training include? Well, first and foremost, what is asbestos?
Yeah, that's a real important one. So you need to have an understanding of what is asbestos. What actually is it? Where does it come from?
Why was it used is another one on there.
Yeah, that's really important. Again, just get an understanding of why did we use asbestos so much in this country? What was the purpose? What was the benefits of using that material?
Where was asbestos used? Now, that's a biggie for me.
Yeah, definitely.
Highlights and should run through photographs and show asbestos in all the various locations that it's been used throughout the years and throughout the buildings.
Yeah, because that's really, how can you prevent people being exposed to asbestos while you're working on site if you don't know where you may come across it? Really important.
And then equally as important, why is asbestos hazardous and what are the health effects? What are the diseases and how do they affect people?
Yeah, what are the properties of asbestos? How does that link into what it does to the human body? And that should include the risks of being exposed to asbestos and the risks of smoking taken together. So the course should include that, because there's lots of people that smoke and there is real significant increase of developing an asbestos-related disease if you're exposed to asbestos and you smoke.
And then following on from that, where it is, why, what. It's then moving on to how to control the risk, how to avoid exposure, any emergency procedures of how to avoid disturbing asbestos and making exposure worse if you have disturbed it.
Yeah, the important thing is, what do you do if something goes wrong? Because there are set procedures that you can follow that will minimise the risk or the exposure to asbestos if you follow these control measures, really. So it's really important information that you can get from this training.
And lastly, on the list of what should be covered by the training, the current asbestos regulations and what to expect. What are the regulations? What do they mean to you as an individual, but also in your work, and how it affects other people as well?
Definitely. So how often should this training be updated and refreshed? So under the Control of Asbestos Regulations 2012, it states the following. Refresher training should be given at least every year and should be appropriate to the role undertaken. Now, it's not actually asking that you have to do an asbestos awareness training course every year. However, what it is asking for is that you identify any training needs. And this is usually done by a training needs analysis. So, how do you select the right trainer?
Well, there's various ways that you can select a trainer from. I'm going to run through some of them with you. So, training body memberships, UCATA, United Kingdom Asbestos Training Association. Our course is approved by UCATA, and it shows that we meet a level of competence for the training.
Yeah, basically, it's an external assessment to make sure that we are delivering a course which is in line with what the regulations are actually asking for.
Another thing that you can look for and ask for when looking for a trainer is the trainer experience. What experience have they got of delivering the course?
Don't just look at the company experience, because there's lots of experienced companies out there, but who is actually coming to deliver that training course themselves?
Again, their qualifications, their individual qualifications, and their actual teaching experience. Both of those things, again, will help improve competence and give you assurance that the person coming to teach you or your staff is going to be adequate.
Yeah, definitely. I'd be looking at a broad spectrum of experience across the industry, not just focused on one individual role. As a trainer, got a full spectrum of experience across all roles, training, asbestos surveys, testing, removal management, etc. So they can give you a fully rounded delivery of the course.
And also with any Q&A that you have going on as well, that kind of, you want a trainer, like Neil said, that's got a broad spectrum so they can help and assist you in the best way possible.
Yeah. I'd also be looking for testimonials, referrals or references, one for the course and two for the actual trainer themselves.
We've already mentioned how the course is delivered. Face-to-face is our preferred method for this, for the point of, can you ask questions? Can you grill the trainer to make sure your understanding is adequate as well?
Yeah, and you can get the answers there and then before you actually leave the course. So can the course be tailored to your needs? Again, we sort of touched on that earlier. I feel it's really important that if you're a gas engineer, you want a tailored course as a gas engineer. You want to know about all the asbestos that you're likely to come into contact and how you're best to prevent being exposed to asbestos. And again, for the other alloy trades as well, having a specific tailored course is really important.
Definitely. And then last but not least, the certificate turnaround. How long are you going to have to wait for the certificate once you've sat the course and you've passed the test at the end? Because that could delay works. It could have an impact on you further or anything like that.
Yeah, so I hope you found that useful. And remember, asbestos first, not last.